Hello, my name is Marcus. I'm the compiler of a collection of therapy quotes entitled 1001 Windmills of the Mind, a collection of advanced self-help quotes taken from what's often called the psychodynamic or the psychoanalytic perspective, which long ago, as I understand it, was referred to by some as philosophical medicine or narrative medicine, for the love of narrative medicine. And in part one of this video, we covered 8 sort of core tasks that I think maybe we can consider that we need to engage in the midlife audit, midlife examination period, second half of life, okay, where we recognize that we lost our beingness with birth trauma, early on trauma, pin went in the collar, fell flat, the feelings are kind of so echo turns to a statue, mating king morphs into a swan and flies away. Snow White, also another symbol for our beingness, is in a coma. Rapunzel's locked in a tower. So at midlife, we want to get back our beingness. So we got to go on this kind of audit, this kind of 20-year, kind of, generally speaking, 20-year phase of life, where we got to find our story, study defense mechanisms, make the unconscious conscious, consider about repetition compulsion and unrealistic hope that something in the present can change the past. We've got to resolve oppositional thinking, divide the seeds, distinguishing between feelings from our beingness versus, blowing off steam from the sensations from our survival, defensive, neurotic pride self versus the true self, false self distinction. And then facing unconscious guilt, that's the Doomsday one, discussed in part one, and so on, and a few other tasks. So that was sort of done in part one. And now in this part 2, I'll lunge into part 3 of 3 on the work of Ulman and Paul from their book called Narcissism in Wonderland. I said at the end of part 1 I'll go to the AC place, but it was occupied. So unfortunately I'm out here with I got all these construction guys here. So sorry about the noise. So I've got less than an hour of light left here. What is it? 5:18. So maybe there's only like maybe barely 20 minutes of light out here. So let's just zip through them. I'd like to cover them. So I'm gonna just read part 1 and part 2 of the quotes and then focus on the part 3 as we set it up. So let's just recap 29, 23, and 24, parts 1 and 2 of Ulman and Paul. So they have a theory based on the work of Heinz Kohut. So just preface a little bit here. So he had Mr. Kohut. We don't cover his material. We're not really into that kind of area. But he does have one kind of useful construct, a term called self-object, written together as one word. Self-object as one word. Okay, that's a symbol that the baby, self, mother, object, breast mother, is all one to the baby. There's no distinction like that. Baby doesn't, it's called undifferentiation, fusion, merging. So the term kind of implies this merging like that. So the baby's one with the breast, and the baby thinks the breast belongs to him, like it's his kind of thing, his possession, and he's in a blissful state. He's in a powerful, blissful state if he thinks the mother's him. He's one with the mother. Well, this is giant, this powerful, grand, powerful giant. Baby's that. He's a little helpless little baby, but he thinks he's the mother who provides everything, and he's one with this, and he's considered to be in a blissful, powerful state. So from the baby's perspective, he's tiny and helpless, but the mother's, like King Kong. From the baby's angle, the mother's like a giant, like King Kong or something. So it feels kind of powerful, stomp around, owns everything, controls. It feels pretty good, I guess. Something like that. Maybe that's not a good example, but the baby's considered to be in a blissful oneness with the mother, a blissful oceanic feeling, unico mystica, one with this mystery. One guy calls it oceanic ecstasy even. There's no time, it's floating around, no space, no place, dispersed, floating around, happy, Garden of Eden, Shambhala, Shangri-La. It's some kind of blissful, powerful, happy, godlike, invincible, godlike kind of feeling. And so there's no danger because he's everything. So what's the worry about? Unconditional hallucinatory omnipotence. Whatever he needs, automatically met. He doesn't know that the mother's feeding him. He thinks the mother's him and he's feeding himself, so to speak, something like that. Or so that's the confusion with the baby. He thinks it's all him. He's a god. He's a king, magic sorcerer, little magic baby. Like he has a need, it gets met. It's so magical, so powerful like that. So something like that. It's hard to describe, I guess. But anyways, that this is in the uterus, but it continues for the first 4 to 5 months in the nursing time. So he thinks the same thing about the breast mother. The baby regards the breast as a part of the mother and kind of thinks it's mainly relating to the breast mother, not fully distinguishing or identifying that the breast belongs to the mother and the breast and the mother are his mother as one person. Later on he gets that, but in the beginning he's relating to the breast mother, and the background, the mother's kind of blurry or something. So he's relating to the breast basically, and he thinks it's his. So he's in a powerful, blissful place. Rhythm is safety, needs automatically met. Mother is attuned, so she understands the signals. Mother understands the baby. She's present for the baby, soothes the baby, sees the baby, recognizes the baby. His needs are being met. It flows. Rhythm is safety, back and forth, flow like this. He's in a blissful kind of place. That's meant to continue for the first 4 to 5 months. Now, if there's a problem there, okay, you see, if there's a problem there, he's trapped in the mirror. So then he may try to, in life, when he's triggered or a little stress or something, he may try to evoke the old paradise feelings in the uterus and regress back in a kind of pathological nostalgia of the good old days when he was a little king and a little god. Okay, so that's what Ulman and Paul's theory is. When there's trauma like that, where he's trapped in the mirror, okay, that trauma leads to an addictive quest for what they call ATMs, ersatz self-objects, something or some activity that can kind of stand in his fantasy for the breast at that time. If he can get that fantasy, he can blip up with the chemistry, he can blip up the fantasies that he's back in the uterus, he's a little god like that. So he's not addicted to cigarettes, he's addicted to how he feels after he smokes kind of thing. So when he gets the cigarette, the chemistry, whatever in the brain, it does what it does, but it interacts with the fantasies. So this is the missing piece. A lot of people say, you know, emotional eating and cookies and ice cream and drinking, that's all just self-medicating, self-soothing, it's all chemistry. They say, no, you're missing the it's a both and. It's not chemistry or not. It's chemistry and psychology, meaning fantasies. So the chemistry blips up the fantasies, the little god, then you get the fantasies of the serotonin, oxytocin, the bliss that you had as a baby. So the chemistry leads to fantasies, which leads to the chemistry. It's not just chemistry only. So that's the kind of missing piece they focus on. So we talked about like the cigarette guy. He's feeling stressed. He wants to bring up the godlike feeling. Get a cigarette. It's like a magic wand, and he gets the godlike feeling. He controls the cigarette. He's in anticipation of getting the blissful feeling. So he's kind of powerful like that. He's a little god with this magic wand, the magic sorcerer kind of thing. Narcissus in Wonderland. It's all fantasy-based, right? Okay, so the core of their theory is that the breast functions as what they call a self-object. So it's kind of one like that. And the mother meets the baby's symbiotic needs. It's all fed like one way like that. The baby doesn't have to do something for the mother. The baby doesn't have to take care of the mother. The mother takes care of the baby. And so it's one way like that. If there's a problem like that, he's trapped like that, okay, he's looking for ersatz or symbolic breasts. Okay, and with that fantasy, whatever it is, the cookie, cigarette, whatever it is, it's a trick because the chemistry blips up the old fantasies. So he thinks the cigarette's the breast, but it's not. It's just a way to make him fantasize the breast is there, to get up the chemistry, to get up the feeling that he's a little god. That's what they mean by ersatz self-objects, or what they call ATMs, addictive trigger mechanism. So it's an addictive trigger mechanism. Okay, and it's considered addictive because when the baby's one with the mother, that's called primary narcissism, infantile megalomania. He's the megalomaniacal self, this glorified, idealized self, perfect, blissful, powerful, godlike self. It's considered addictive. So in ancient times, they would name this phenomena, they would name this feeling, psychology, after the narcissus flower. A little white flower, can we find it? I don't see any here. A little, oh, there's some white, yeah, something like that, it's smaller than that. A little white flower, and narcissism comes from the word narcotic. Okay, narcissism, it's addictive, like the little white flower. So that psychology state is addictive. Now, no baby's addicted to that. He's just going through that in his development. When he's loved, he gets out of it, he doesn't go back. But when there's a problem there and you go back, then you're now feeling what you felt, and you feel safe and you feel blissful. And you go, whoa, that's pretty amazing. I feel safe and blissful. Now, when the baby had it, he doesn't remember it. But when you're older, you kind of experience what you felt back then. So it doesn't give you anything new, it just brings up something old kind of thing. So it's called pathological nostalgia. Okay? It's like a defense mechanism. You go back to the good old days. So that's the theory about addictions or addictive activity, smoking, drinking, that kind of stuff. So consider that as a sort of a setup for the quotes. So we're gonna run this. So let's begin with the quotes here. It is best, they say, it is best to conceptualize addiction as a kind of self-hypnosis. Self-hypnosis. So maybe it's kind of like the cigarette's like a watch. You're gonna go back to, you're gonna think you're a little god, and you're gonna stay there. Self-hypnosis. You're in a trance. You're in a swoon. You're in this little bubble of bliss. They call it narcissistic bliss, and you hypnotize yourself to this narcissistic bliss, and you don't snap your fingers out of it. You stay there like that, or for a little while you're there, and it comes down naturally. Then you put yourself back in there, maybe like that. So they think about addictions or emotional eating, smoking, drinking, or illegal. What they think about all that whole category. Think of it as a kind of self-hypnosis to put yourself in some kind of self-hypnoid state. It's a kind of a hypnoid state, they say. Okay, again. It is best to conceptualize addiction as a kind of self-hypnosis rather than as a type of self-medication. That's the usual, traditional, 99% of the people refer to drinking as a self-medication. Okay? They say it's more than that. They say it's just the means to bring up the fantasies. That's what you want. You're after the fantasies that give you the blissful feeling. It's just the means. You're not addicted to the wine. You're not addicted to the cigarettes. You're addicted to the blissful feeling of being a little god. That's just the way to get there. In the context of megalomania, babies in a little god, megalomania, i.e. a narcissistic illusion of being a megalomaniacal self. We're going to call it infantile megalomania. Other people call it the glorified self, the idealized self. As wielding magical control, the effect entails an anti-panic sense. The effect entails an anti-panic sense of being in control, which counteracts the panic attendant to a sense of having lost control or being out of control. So let's say you're living your life, something bothers you, you're triggered of the rejection of the mother, somebody slights you, that's like mother didn't want you or father didn't want you. So whoa, you brought up the pain. Because when you live life in the world, it's going to remind you of the original first world experience. The breast was the world for the baby. Imprint, stencil. John F. says, don't think about genetic, think about imprints. These seared in memory circuits, imprints. Something's going to trigger up the imprint. Something in the behavior is going to be like a catalyst or a symbol or a reminder of your experience with the mother back then. Now, your experience with the mother back then was you were abandoned, she rejected you, shamed you, used you, wasn't around for you, gaslit you, double-blinded you, made excuses, didn't objectify you, thingified you. She was in pain because she doesn't have the identity to love, and she doesn't have and she's repeating what happened to her, so she might shame the baby in her effort to know that she's been shamed, or she thinks she's shaming the baby, maybe she'll change her past. So something in the present somehow evokes that up again. Now you're feeling that pain that you felt back then. It's unconscious pain, psychic pain. What do you do? What do you do when you feel what any baby feels when he has no mother? We don't remember this, right? So the fantasies are coming up like this. It's going to be terrorized, silent scream painting, Edward Munch painting. This baby screaming like this. Yikes. So what's he going to do? Okay, wait a minute. I can just go back to the time in the uterus when I was a little god and I was a little king like that. How am I going to do that? I want those fantasies. I want to bring up those old ancient fantasies I had back then. I want to bring it up. How do I bring it up? What do I do to bring it up? Let's see. What if I stress my brain? What if I stress out my brain chemistry and trigger a lot of cerebral thoughts like that? Like the mind will react to the chemistry and to compensate or something. So if I stress out my brain or something, a lot of fantasies will swirl around to deal with it. And I want to get to a place where the fantasies take me back to the uterus, to the good old days where I'm a little god. I want to blip up those fantasies, feel like a little important little god, and I'm safe. I'm in a swoon, I'm in a trance, I'm in a dreamy, kind of relaxed, peaceful kind of place, and it all is good like that. So you want to go back to the good old days like that. So they think in those kind of terms. So they're the only ones that I know of that talk about the fantasy component to it, the addictive addictions. So something's triggered, you're out of control, you lost control. Well, you want to go back to like your little god. If you're a little god, you're in control, you're safe, so you feel safe, you get serotonin. However, and paradoxically, rather than reestablishing control, quote unquote, an addict experiences an increasing sense of loss of control, leading to still further and ill-fated efforts at reinstituting the illusion of control. Now, see, now it doesn't work. So now something in the, I don't know the details of the chemistry in the brain, but something goes numb inside, and then you want more to trigger it up again. See, instead of 1 cigarette, maybe you need 2 cigarettes. Maybe that'll do it. So you're more in the panic to. See, the panic comes up, so you want to do anti-panic, right? You want to be in control again. So now there's more of a panic, so now you drink 2 cigarettes. Maybe next time 3 cigarettes. Maybe finally you're a chain smoker, and that keeps you like in a homeostasis or something. So it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Emotional eating doesn't mean you're going to get mother's love back in the nursery, whereby some kind of magical time machine appeared, you went back to the past and you got mother's love. This doesn't work. An addict, as under the influence of a fantasy of being a megalomaniacal self endowed with magical control, as someone who artificially, alters a subjective sense of the reality of the self in the world. Your emotions, subjective. The unconscious purpose of psychoactively altering the meaning of subjective experience. With that, there's a major drawback to the addictive redesigning of a particular psychological terrain. Inevitably, an addict only succeeds in creating what amounts to an illusionary domain. Such a realm of make-believe necessitates constant deceit, self-deception, rationalization, flim-flammery, duplicity, lying, manipulation on the part of the addict, all of which are required by the addict's desperate attempt to deny the truth of being addicted. So he doesn't want to be aware that he's doing it. So you believe the excuses, so you lie to yourself. Oh, it's just one, no big deal. I had a tired day, I need one, it's no big deal. So you make excuses to one degree or another. Eventually, an addict creates a shadowy netherland of half-truths, making it difficult for an addict to know the difference between fact and fiction. A world of make-believe is a crucial aspect of an addict's double and secret life as a narcissist in a wonderland. Maybe we can cross over and borrow that example from Kimberly Harding. No, let's just leave it. Okay, let's just leave it like that. Sorry. Next one here. Okay, so this, so mention of part 1, so we have primary mentation, okay, and versus secondary mentation, the reasonable. But the primary mentation, that's myths and fairy tales, flip-flop and magical stuff. Okay, primary process thought or fantastic magical thinking is based on a private form of illogic, like Alice says, up is down, left is right, the cat says everything's bad. That is not subject to rules of logical thought derived from secondary mentation, trial and error, induction, deduction, reasoning, common sense, cause and effect, and so on. In Piagetian terms, fantasizing is egocentric thought in that it is completely self-centered and without significant reference to a consensually validated notion of reality. So you're back in your little solipsistic bubble where it's all about you. Such magical thinking is both a form of mental activity and an ideational affective content of the mind. The mental imagery flowing from such thought processes is derived from an early childhood world of make-believe, pretend, illusion, leading to narcissistic bliss. Okay, that was in 23, that was part 1. And then let's review part 2 of this continuation. sec. Where are we? Oh, hold on a sec, sorry. Oh, 24, here we go. Okay, enter the phrase addictive trigger mechanisms or ersatz self-objects. From our self-psychological point of view, that's Mr. Cohat's self-psychology. They're followers of this Mr. Cohat guy. I don't get in at all. We don't have any quotes from Mr. Maybe we have one or something. We don't really get into that one. So we do like traditional object relations theory, kind of the regular stuff. This branch called self-psychology, where the shrink can fill in for the breast and actually be like mirror and agree and join and yes, we're one. Really? You want to do it without consciousness? No, you got to be conscious to heal. To treat them like a baby like that, forget it. So we don't do that kind of stuff. Anyways, but the point about the baby being one with the breast, that's valid. Okay. From our point of view, addictive trigger mechanisms, or ersatz self-objects, cigarettes, booze, whatever, are viewed as magical agents and enable an addict to indulge via artificial means in archaic, narcissistic fantasies and moods of narcissistic bliss, as the oceanic bliss, the oceanic feeling, the blissful oneness, narcissistic bliss. As ersatz self-objects, addictive trigger mechanisms serve as a means by which an addict takes advantage of biochemical, physiological, and behavioral pathways, all of which lead to neuroanatomically sensitive areas of the brain. It starts when they act either directly or indirectly on specific areas of the brain, thus causing a powerful surge of cerebral activity. Your mind is monkey mind is racing. This neuroanatomical burst serves in turn as the basis for a further psychological unconscious, like dream compensation from the unconscious reaction involving mobilization of latent fantasies and moods. It's kind of like when you're dreaming at night, you might get a happy fantasy and meet and have something nice happen in your dream. It compensates, it's wish fulfillment in your dream world to compensate that in your daytime something was boring, say something happy, that kind of. As a psychopathological process inherent in all addictions, addictive amnesia involves the dissociative alteration of cognition or thought based on the unconscious reliving of fantasies of early childhood and the anesthetization of painful affect and sensation generated by the pleasurable re-experiencing of the mood of narcissistic bliss. This kind of dissociative reliving in fantasies entails what one guy referred to as a hypnoid state. Let's check the battery. Oh, the battery's draining on me. Oh, son of a gun. Oh, this might just shut out all of a sudden. Oh, son of a gun. Well, okay. This is going to be a short video, so I can redo this if it shuts down. That's okay. Yeah, once I finish, I'll shut it down. I've had so many tech issues. My phone's freaking out on me. It's doing all these crazy things. Talk about a burst of activity, and my phone's freaking out here. Okay, so addictive trigger mechanisms, or ATMs, they call it, are ersatz self-objects. So the breast is a real self-object. Now, if the mother hands the baby a teddy bear, and the teddy bear reminds the child of the mother because there was a loving mother, then the teddy bear is okay. It's a real transitional self-object. But if there's no mother and no teddy bear from the loving mother, what do you got left? Okay, cigarettes and booze and all that. ATMs are ersatz self-objects, and as such, are distinguished from genuine non-human or transitional self-objects. Despite functioning as ersatz self-objects, despite that, ATMs do partake of some of the essential qualities of authentic and, in this instance, transitional objects. So it tricks you to think that the cigarette is a teddy bear. Somehow the cigarette triggers up the feeling that maybe it is a real teddy bear from a loving mother, just for a minute. Unconsciously, an addict fantasizes these non-human things, cigarettes, and activities, okay, prejudice, that's blaming, externalized living, okay, manic behavior, emotional eating, etc., activities, as being, as a result, they are imbued by an addict with capacities normally emanating only from real self-objects. From a self-psychological perspective, empathy is viewed in terms of the subjective experience of being responded to from an understanding, in an understanding way. His mother understands the baby, recognizes the baby, and so on. Is that a staff or a guest? I'm not sure. All right. Perhaps from the viewpoint of an addict, this accounts for the belief that a bottle of booze is an alcoholic's best friend. It's reliable. It's always a magical, easily available, reliable thing. So he ends up thinking to himself, you know, bottle of booze, you're the only thing that makes me feel better. You're the only thing that's there for me when I'm triggered. Right? There's no teddy bear. There's no memory of mother loving me, no memory of father protecting me and guiding me. All I got is you, booze. You're my best friend. In these three narcissistic behavior disorders, there is a psychopathological disturbance based on using rather than on relating. An addict does not achieve an orgasmic-like physiological reaction simply by using or abusing certain things or activities. Of equal, if not greater importance, an addict must mobilize archaic, narcissistic fantasies and moods in order to achieve the addictive state of mind. Fantasy and mood are the critical intervening variables for the addict. Fantasy and mood are the desired end. Okay, fantasy and mood are the desired end. Okay, and whereas physical or behavioral activity are the necessary means to an end. So bitter humor, shame, others play you shame them, you're the mother, so that's an activity. Prejudice, cynicism, sarcasm, and it's an addictive thing. Okay? Now, you're not addicted to the negative jokes. That's just a means to be one with the mother, because you are the mother. So you treat others the way your mother treated you, and you get the little white flower, the narcissus flower. Okay, that last part is the key one there. It's not, nobody's addicted. So they say you're not addicted to alcohol or cigarettes. You're addicted to the end result of using them, the fantasy, the mood that you get by it. It's splitting hairs there, mute point, right? But they just want to highlight that. People with narcissism, they don't relate. Okay, that's another side point here. So people with narcissism, they don't really relate to people, so they use things and people. So when they shame others, they're using them as a standard for them. They're not relating to them as a person, they just see them as them. And the mother didn't relate to the baby the mother didn't relate to them when they were a baby as a human baby, as a human. Babies are human beings, but the mother didn't do that. The mother wanted supply. The mother wanted narcissistic supply, so she treated the child with that attitude. Identification with the aggressor, they treat others with that attitude. Okay, so that's like using and exploiting, not relating and loving. There's no person to thou, person to person. They're just okay. They want to be fed by others, but treat them like things. You see, like the baby wants to be fed, but he thinks the breast is the thing that he owns. So they're kind of coming from that kind of place. Okay, that's a separate topic. Okay, let's continue. So that's today's one. All right, next one. Let's see the battery. before. It's holding. It's holding. Oh, okay. Okay, here's a summary way of saying it. Ulman and Paul, 2006, in their fantasy-based self-psychological model of addiction, showed that addiction is better conceptualized as a kind of self-hypnosis than a type of self-medication. They believe that an archaic form of narcissism, namely megalomania, is at the unconscious etiology of addiction. Ulman and Paul indicate how at the core of addiction dynamics there is a fantasy of having an unrealistic sense of control of oneself, others, and things or events in the world. Addicts are fantasy junkies and control freaks. The addiction-prone fantasy, the addictive character, is organized unconsciously on the basis of a megalomaniacal fantasy of magical control. The stunting of transitional self-object usage leads later in life to a pathological dependence on things and activities. Okay, so there's trauma with the breastfeeding, or there was no breast, or the bottle was used, the rubber nipple was there. It doesn't lead you to a mother, no rapport, no communication, no nerve signals back and forth. Rubber nipple, baby's angry, mother's frustrated, puts honey, sugar, back to the sugar, puts sugar, honey on the nipple, baby's flooded with the concentrated food. The baby's brain thinks the baby's saved by all the food, sends him to safety by the food, but not safety by the mother's love. There's no relationship safety. Now you're dependent on the sugar. These phenomena have become mutated versions of transitional objects, that is, addictive trigger mechanisms. Okay, so the cookies and the wine and the cigarettes, they become mutated versions of transitional objects. Okay, so they're mutated versions of the missing teddy bear that you never received from a loving mother. An addict searches frantically and desperately for authentic self-objects to provide emotional relief from psychic pain. Tragically, however, an addict finds only poor imitations or faulty facsimiles. These addictive things and activities, i.e. ATMs, i.e. ersatz, self-objects, cannot provide the genuine relief an addict so urgently craves. As a result, an addict is doomed to an endless search for an authentic self-object which will forever elude him or her, right? So back in part one, this someday thing. So you have this someday fantasy that the cookie will be the actual mother back in the nursery. It'll forever elude you. It'll forever elude you. Okay? Nothing in the present can be the actual mother that was needed back in the nursery, back in the past, back then. Kohut goes on to state that the addict, quote, by ingesting the drugs symbolically, compels. Oh, by ingesting the drugs symbolically. They go on to state that the addict, by ingesting the drug, symbolically compels the mirroring self-object to soothe him or to accept him, or he symbolically compels the idealized self-object, the powerful, idealizing, wonderful mother, to submit to his merging into it and thus partaking in its magical power. Okay, so the fantasy is he's going to be one with the mother. Either mother's going to mirror and soothe him and accept him and see the baby and love the baby. Okay, that's a cigarette, really? Or you want to induce and hope that the child will merge into the good breast. Psychologically, he'll be one with the breast, so either the mother comes to him or he goes to the mother. Somehow they're going to be together again. That's the fantasy. We see addiction as a form of faulty self-cure because it involves the use of a substitute for a self-object. That is, That is what we term an ersatz self-object or ATM, addictive trigger mechanism. Okay, so again, no cookie. Okay, all of these things in the present. Addictive activities, okay, manic behavior, blaming, workaholism, anything that makes you unaware of your real feelings, or substances, whatever you're doing. These all involve a substitute for the self-object, a faulty form of self-care. So you still have the hope. Once again, you still have the hope that the pint of ice cream can be by the sweetness back then. It never works. So the pint of ice cream is an ersatz self-object, an addictive trigger mechanism. An addict imagines the following: that it is possible to make up for the absence or faultiness of a real self-object by magically or symbolically compelling certain things or particular activities to take the place of these missing or faulty parts of the self. Okay. So the addict imagines that it's possible to make up for the absence or faultiness of the real loving breast experience by magically compelling things and activities to somehow take that place. And that's it, yeah. So I wonder if I was able to convey the spirit of their theory. I'm not sure. Parts of it are a little off for me a little bit. So we'll update this. I will spiral around this book later. It's not the easiest book to read. They're very verbose and a little repetitive. They talk on the surface a lot with a lot of vocabulary. They don't. So it's a little tiring to read their book, to tell you the truth. But that's sort of the gist of it. Now we have some more quotes below for 25. I'm thinking maybe I'll just. Oh, hang on, someone's coming. Oh, there's just somebody doing exercises. Okay, let's see. Well, I do want to finish it. Let me just read these ones. There's not much to discuss. They're pretty straight. These are kind of like loose end kind of quotes, like filler kind of quotes. So some of them are on sweating. Yesterday we talked about sweating, so we have some more about sweating. But I wanted to focus on Ulman and Paul. So let's back to the someday. In part 1 we talked about the someday thing. Someday this bottle of beer will magically really be the breast, and I'll compel the breast to soothe me and be one with me and comfort me. That's the fantasy. Amazing, eh? What's fantasies got to do with it? I'm borrowing the Tina. Somebody borrowed the Tina Turner song. What's the brain got to do with it? I'm just borrowing that one. Okay, the manic behavior. So because as a defense against the pain of not being loved, they may be a delinquent later on. Juvenile delinquency may be conceived of as a narcissistic behavior disorder. Okay, so they're losing the school maybe. They're about to graduate. There's a panic. What little contained them, what little held them is going to be lost. So they might be delinquent like that, acting out, crying and screaming, no, don't leave. Something like that. An anxiety syndrome is characterized by severe, unformulated apprehension and its physiologic concomitants. Generally, cardiac palpitation, irregular or rapid respiration, which may lead to hyperventilation and secondary hypotension with COPD, whatever that is, globus, hysterias, farnical constriction, trembling, flushing, sweating, splanchnic spasms, flutterings in the stomach, anxiety syndrome. So I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to dwell on it. Ill-defined anxiety and depressive states, which are invariably accompanied by physical symptoms such as fatigue, sweating, trembling. Okay, I was looking for quotes on sweating, so that's what these are. Non-verbal expressions such as blushing, sweating, stomach sensations mean that a current anxiety contains quite specific regressive poles to pre-verbal troubled conditions. Yeah, so anxiety is mostly pre-verbal trauma. Most anxiety is pre-verbal trauma. The baby's traumatized in the uterus at birth or before he can speak. If you feel anxiety, that's maybe a clue that there was trauma like that. The external manifestations of the fear, fleeing or avoidance reactions in animals are automatic responses such as sweating and pulmonary dilation, or pupils dilate, cowering and turning the head from side to side to seek escape. Okay, when you look in the animal world, you can see them turning, sweating, trying to flee. Pupils dilate. They want to see everything, so their pupils dilate. So we have some anxiety responses like that. For some people, the anxiety experience is predominantly a physical experience, namely tachycardia, sweating, and so on. Others describe extreme anxiety, yet there is little or no physical evidence of anxiety. Yes, some people could describe anxiety, but you don't see it. That's a mystery about that. There is increased sweating, so that the skin is further cooled by the evaporation of moisture. See, I'm out of my zone here. I'm not a doctor, so I sweat easily. That's why I'm including these. So this is sort of on my end, really. The flight-fight response of the sympathetic nervous system may manifest itself through muscle tension and movement, an increase in respiratory rate with shallower breathing, trembling, sweating, and so on. The freeze response is activation of the parasympathetic nervous system leading to hypoarousal, i.e. the body shuts down in the freeze response, and this is generally associated with disassociation. Okay, so reference there to the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic. The sympathetic are all revved up with no place to go, buzzing around. The parasympathetic ones, you kind of like just want to conserve, so you're like just like conserve, like turtle conserve mode, where the other one is buzzing around. Blushing and sweating are the well-known bodily responses to shame. Okay, that's another cause for sweating. Might be feelings of shame, rejection. Shame is often accompanied by blushing and sweating. So in Inside Out 2, you had embarrassment for shame and disgust underneath. This in itself indicates that shame is connected with the deep layers of the psyche, obviously. The anxiety attacks are accompanied by the well-known sympathetic nervous system symptoms, i.e. sweating, pallor. Is that looking pale? Is that right? Pallor. Palpitation, tremors, dizziness, tension headaches, diarrhea, and spells of weakness localized in the knees. Weak in the knees when an anxiety attack. Okay, these ones here, now I'm not gonna focus too much on. I have a light here. But that was new for me, that documentary by the TV show called Fifth Estate, called Secret of Sugar. That Alzheimer's is diabetes of the brain, they said, something like that. Did I get that right? Okay, now the point is that they think well, they show you the remarkable amount of sugar you're eating. They showed you a young couple in their 20s who ate mindlessly whatever they wanted, and the interviewer showed her, you know, and she showed her this massive bowl of sugar like this, filled with sugar, like a bowl filled with sugar like this, and she showed the couple, each of you consume this much sugar every week. They were shocked. They opened up the cupboards and purged everything. They chucked it, threw it down the chute, the elevator, the garbage chute in the building. They just threw everything down because they didn't realize how much sugar was in everything. And they were already in their 20s. They were called what, pre-diabetic. Already in their 20s, they're pre-diabetic. Like they were on the verge. If they continued, they'd have diabetes later on. Swelling of the organs. Kidneys can't do its thing, the pancreas freaks out, the kidney freaks out, causes all kind of problems. There is one theory about the sugar that I don't hear about too much, but it is on YouTube, where the body understands. Let's get some better light there. Let me try across the way. Maybe they left. I can use that space over there for a bit. Yeah, let me cross. Give me 5 minutes to change spots here. Something beeped on me, all exposure. Is that it? Are we still recording? This part to it, yeah. Let's see. What's the battery? It's still 94. Battery's holding up. So we got I think we're okay with this one. No big deal. If it shuts down, I lose it. I'll just redo it tomorrow. That's okay. All I did was really read the quotes. But the part one, I thought was the important part. The part one here. I feel okay about that one. Yesterday's one was I thought was pretty good.
กำลังลงค่ะ going down ชั้น 4 ค่ะ fourth floor กำลังลงค่ะ going downชั้น 1 ค่ะ first floor อีฟกำลังขึ้นค่ะ
โ Oh no, somebody's at my spot. Let's take it. Oh, hang on. Oh, we got a spot. Oh, they just left it. Right. Let's just wrap it up here for a minute. A few minutes here. All right. Lighting's also not so great here. Where can I get better lighting? Like this? Yeah, well, that's better, right? Wow, eh? Talk about sweating. So I kind of haunts me a little bit that I'm assuming there's some prenatal trauma in my case if I sweat so easily. Now, Janoff, spent his life trying to address prenatal trauma, birth trauma, by making you conscious, making you feel safe and conscious, to see if you can now feel what you couldn't have felt back then. There'd be an abreaction, so he experimented with that. But you need a strong ego with that. You gotta really be aware. So someone's gotta interpret things for you. You gotta be aware. You can't do it blindly without consciousness. You can't do like this breathing thing and you don't know the why of anything. Just do this breathing thing and feelings come up. At least know that you're gonna feel what you tried to feel back then, and see if you can accept it like that. If it's too much, it just shuts down anyways. Now, don't force that kind of thing up. See, some people say, well, force it up. No, don't. That's dangerous. Yeah, we don't have a thread on tattoos. Yeah, maybe in the future. We have one quote. What's her name? Miss Lemma. Is that right, Miss Lemma? It's like wanting to internalize a symbol of support of some kind. But there's probably like 50 reasons why people do that. That might be. She said that might be one of the 50. That people want to have the fantasy that whatever this picture is, that it's a symbol of support. So if it's whatever, if it's a dog, let's say, well, maybe there's a protector god, a dog, protector dog, that the dog protects them or something, or a self-object, or maybe you have a dog on your arm or something. Maybe it's like, well, that's the ersatz self-object. I can have the fantasy that. My mother gave me a dog when she went to work, so the dog is there, and I'm connected to the dog, but the dog reminds me of the mother who gave me the dog, and the home with the mother. That's not going to work, right? Yeah, that'd be interesting too. I think I searched once. There's nothing written. There's nothing written about it. The shrinks are quiet about it for some reason. I don't have access to all these journals. Very expensive. I'm finding the best of what I can have access to. So a lot of it's from the 40s and 50s. This book, Ulman and Paul's 2006. Not much from recent material, right? Oh, exposure is locked. Hey, exposure. Let me just leave it like that. Aha, okay. Maybe the lighting's okay now. Let me just leave it like that. If I touch it, I lose it, right? That's strange. Okay. I accidentally locked the exposure. It's the first time I've seen that. Wow. Okay, so just to recap about the Twilight Zone show, there are several good episodes that we've been discussing for the past month. Wong's Lost and Found Emporium, still my favorite. About at midlife, you admit that you lost your beingness, and you want to find it. Every finding is a refinding. You had it, you lost it, want to get it back. Lost and found. A very touching scene is the older guy who said he didn't say it directly, but he lost development. He lost that there should have been a loving mother that should have been there. Never had that. It's a huge loss. He lost development, lost the chance to be loved, lost the chance to be who he'd be had he been loved. Now, one of the capacities of having been loved is differentiation. One of the capacities or benefits of differentiation is you have a sense of self that sees others as people, and you can do person-to-person relating. Now, if you don't get that, he said he didn't get that. So he was trapped in the mirror. He spent his life looking for symbolic breast. So he stayed in the place where he's addicted to the God, addicted to the center, made it all about him, still in the babyhood place, but he has the hope for it. So Erzat's self-object. So he used his children as Erzat's self-objects, addictive trigger mechanisms. So he wanted them he coerced them, scared them and frightened them to attend to him, make him the center, make it all about him. Now the kids got fed up, finally hated him, so he couldn't do mutuality. He saw his children as things that should serve him. Oops. Oh. Over there? Oh, okay, that's okay. So he admitted, so in his 70s, it caught up with him, and this is very rare for people with narcissism, to admit that maybe their personality and that their behavior was a contributing factor to why his kids hate him. Because usually the narcissist will say, "Oh, they didn't serve me well. That's the problem. I gave them the gift that they can serve me. I'm a little king, little god. It's all about me." That's the problems with them. So they always blame. Right? So he said, "No, I think it's my fault." He said, "I failed my kids. I lost development. I lost the capacity for mutuality because I lost the capacity to come from a sense of beingness because I lost not having a mother to develop to that." So he went to the midlife phase of life called the Lost and Found Emporium. So he went to this place, a metaphysical place, headed up by Mr. Wong. And Mr. Wong, can you help me out here? I want to find my capacity for mutuality, meaning I want to have my identity. I lost my identity. Can you help me find my identity, basically? So Mr. Wong said, "Okay, well, let's begin the process here. Please, sir, take a look in this mirror. For 5.5 minutes, please look at this mirror and don't look away. Stay for 5.5 minutes in this mirror." Okay, fair enough. He looked in the mirror and he started to see what his children saw when they interacted with him. So he saw his image morph into an ugly monster kind of thing. He freaked out in a panic, got enraged, and crashed the mirror. He couldn't do it. But he began. The point is, he began the process of realizing that his behavior was a contributing factor. He admitted it, but he's got to feel it. So he began the process. Lost and Found Emporium. The one Memphis, and there's other characters in there. And Memphis, the guy was going to have a problem with his future. So he went to the past, addressed the past, came back to the present, and his future was better. The key to the future lies in the past. Very good episode. Okay, Gabe's story. That's a very good one. That's a very clear one. That the first half of the show, we saw his dysfunction, all that. And then in the second half of the show, you saw the imagining science fiction metaphysical of the unconscious. So he confronted the unconscious. And you have 3 characters there as personifications of energetic forces in the unconscious. So the first was the mechanics of his dysfunction, the invisible things going on that we don't know about that make us make the wrong choices. Then you have to face the scriptwriter, and the scriptwriter says, "Well, I just do daily variations from your template. I didn't cause the template. I just write daily disappointments for you. And every day I gotta make your life disappointing. So one day you're gonna break the vase. One day you're gonna get into a fight with your neighbor. One day the grass on your lawn's gonna die. So I just give you daily little disappointments because I'm following the template." Number 2. Well, I want to face this template. And face the template. You're kind of like a puppet master here. I want to break free from this template. The voice of the template says, well, this is how you survived with your mother. This is your coping strategy, and this is the template that you adopted to survive as a baby. Yeah, but that was when I was a baby. Now I'm an adult. I want to be an adult. You sure? Yes. I don't know. No, I insist. Okay, well, good luck then. So so you see it visually, this issue of facing your unconscious script called the puppet master, the daily writer, and the mechanics of your dysfunction. Oh, look at that, eh? This is the first time I've had proper lighting at night here. Look at this. I wonder, oh, when I play it back, maybe it's not like this. So those are three good ones. Long's Lost and Found Emporium, okay. Memphis, and the Gabe story. To See the Invisible Man. He had narcissism, so he treated people like things, didn't care about people. So everyone around him was ordered to ignore him. He didn't care, but it caught up with him. For 10 minutes he didn't care, but then later on he realized he needs people, and people are people. So it worked. The exercise worked, kind of thing. I mentioned the Groundhog Day, the looping one earlier. That's an important one. Saturday is another key one. The seven steps there. Saturday, Moan Day, Do's Day, Wound Day, Thorn Day, Free Day, Saturday. And in the episode, you see the end of it all, where the authentic self occupied the condo. I mean, the beingness came back, but the false self is kind of lingering around. And there was a battle between the false self and the authentic self. The authentic self, look, false self, you're such a weasel. We did it your way, forget it. So that's the same idea. So if you hold on to it's a new feeling. You got to get used to having your beingness. And then on the Saturday, if you sustain your new sense of self, then finally the false self dissolves away or shatters away, like broken glass shatters away, dissolves away. That's what I mean by shattered. The glass shattered. It was this illusionary, invisible glass that shattered away. So it wasn't, the false self's never real. It's just this illusionary construct we create to go through life. Another good one is Take My False Life, Please. This is about a comedian guy. And in his healing journey, if he's going to heal, he's got to face shame. Now, shame is a burning, biting feeling. Okay, this burning, biting feeling can be symbolized as the hell scene. So hell is a metaphor or picture or symbol, not real, but it points to something invisible that's real, the emotion of shame. So this guy, if he's going to heal, he's got to face how he feels, the real shame. He denied it by shaming other people. He spent his life shaming other people, making money shaming other people. So now he's got to face, he's got to look inward. So they're going to remove his chance to scapegoat and blame. He's got to look inward. So he was compelled to look inward. Okay, Michael Jackson, okay, you want to heal, you got to look inward, man in the mirror. So they sent him to hell. Okay, the metaphysical idea that he's going to face shame. In this hell scene, okay, again, shame means it's linked to your identity. Mother didn't meet your needs. You need your needs for your identity to be there. That's rejected. So the emotion is shame, a burning, biting feeling symbolized by hell. So he went to the hell scene. And since his profession was to be a comedian, he went on stage and said, all right, well, in hell, you're going to entertain the denizens of hell. We'll do this, we'll just do it for 20 years first and see how it goes. So you got to do this for 20 years. That's code for the Odyssey, 20 years. They said 2 eons, but I think he means 2 decades. So for a period of time, then we'll decide. So 3 nights, 3 sets a night, 7 days a week, he's got to go on stage and entertain the denizens of hell. Now, in the daily before, he made jokes of other people and everyone laughed. He would mock and shame others and they would all laugh. So now, he tried to do that, no one laughed. Oh my God. No one laughed. He was deprived of scapegoating and blaming. He was deprived of that. And then there was a heckler in the audience who wanted him to talk about how he felt about things, about his life. Oh no, I don't do that. And the heckler heckled him, and he pushed him, kind of thing. So the heckler would say things like, yeah, well, tell us about when you hit the woman or something. He didn't want to do it. He pushed him, kind of thing. Yeah, so yeah, and she went to the hospital and needed an operation. And then the audience all laughed. Oh my God, so he's kind of like, now they're gonna laugh at him. And tell us about the thing with your mother. She came to you and you didn't let her in or something. Yeah, I didn't want to invite her in. I locked the door and it was cold outside and she died of hypothermia. And they all laughed. They all laughed. Yeah, and what about that guy? You destroyed his career. He gave you all of his comedy routine. You stole it, used it. He became impoverished. You stole all that from him, gave him no credit like that. All right, fine. It was easy pickings. Easy pickings. They're all laughing. And he's got to do this again and again. Face the heckler. Now the heckler was a symbol for his inner truth, his inner knowing of his inner truth. He had to face his inner, so he could no longer deny by blaming. He had to face the inner knowing, and that's symbolized by the heckler. The heckler was him. Okay, the heckler looked like him, it made it cloudy, but the heckler was him, so he's facing himself. He's facing himself. And he faces himself when he talks about himself, and it's really broad in his face when everyone laughs at him. He's facing shame. So he'll do this for 20 years, and we'll see if he learned his lesson, that if he learns something from it. If not, he stays in hell, kind of thing. And meaning he doesn't heal. He doesn't heal. They have some fun, easy breezy ones, like the secretary one. But can she type? They have some light ones too, some funny ones. One life furnished in poverty. Okay, not a fun episode to watch, but I read you the closing narration of part 1 about time travel back, see your childhood, and realize that you're the master of your fate. You decided these things, you believe these things, even as a baby you decided these things, so you're the master of your fate. That's sort of the secret you got to learn. And if you learn that great truth, it'll relieve you it's of immense help to know that you're the one who designed these templates. So you were ingenious to survive the trauma with your mother. You're not a victim, you're a survivor. You're a trauma survivor, that people keep saying. So if you can create this template yourself to deal with the trauma, well, you're kind of like the architect and master of your fate like that. Now the fate, destiny, that's the script. So you got to face this script and update the script. So you create the script, you can update it. Put it that way. That's the message, right? And then tie in the book Unloved Again by Ilan Golem. A very good book called Unloved Again by Miss Ilan Golem. It's a self-published book. The publishing company is still around, to my surprise, called iUniverse. And it's only $3.99 for the PDF. That's well worth the price of a coffee or tea or a cookie or whatever. Or a croissant. It's well worth the price of a croissant with lots of sugar in it, right? Even the croissant has sugar in it, right? Unless it's a fresh baked one. I mean, from scratch or something. Okay, where are we here? What are the Twilight Zone episodes? Oh my God. Oh, the Doberman Pinscher one. Don't get me started. That's a tough one. That's a very tough one. A woman's fantasy went into her husband's mind. He had a psychotic break, and that dog fantasy protected her. So a woman had a fantasy that her childhood dog would protect her in the present from the abusive husband. based on what he was doing, it ended up that the dog went in his mind and he saw the dog outside of him. It wasn't real, but he saw it like a psychosis, and he reacted like that. So anytime he had the thought of mistreating his wife, the dog would charge at him, even though it wasn't real. That's a very, very good one, very emotional. Shades of guilt about a lesson in empathy, courtesy of the Twilight Zone. A lesson in compassion, courtesy of Twilight Zone. So this faces how we swim in a very systemic, subtle, it's everywhere, prejudice in the books, what you see on TV, the ads. It's just non-stop, just every minute. Many times a day, you'll see subtle, subliminal, suggestive prejudice against people with a shade of brown tone of skin, against people, okay, and so on. So he's an ordinary guy in that episode. So he had the implicit prejudice or bias, let's say. Now his name is Matt. He has a shade of beige tone of skin. Now there was a professor guy with a shade of brown tone of skin, who was in immense danger. He was in fear for his life. It was very clear that he very desperately was in a desperate state. He needed help. Matt looked at his skin tone and freaked out and ran away. And it turned out that guy was a goner because some kind of KKK death cult was chasing him. I'm shocked to use that phrase, but that's what they showed you. They showed you a gang of thugs, and all they did was go around either voluntarily or they were hired or they're getting some benefit from, I don't know what it is, some disease in their brain or see, some people like that, maybe their identity is the color of milk, they think. So maybe they think like that. They're one with the mother, there's no mother. So they got the powdered stuff. The powdered stuff's white, right? So they think they don't say it like that, but because of the fusion, and they won with the powdered stuff. They don't say I'm the powdered stuff. They just pick the color like that. That's a very disturbing theory. I don't know about that. Somebody offered that idea once. Anyways, the story wasn't about the thugs, these psychopaths, whatever. But anyways, the professor guy, he had a shade of brown tone of skin. He was trying to escape these criminals. He didn't do anything to them. They just saw his skin tone and wanted to murder him, right? It's just it's really, really over the top kind of real disease on that. They didn't address the disease of these characters. The point was to address Matt. Why didn't Matt have the common sense to help this guy? And he said, you know, if that guy had a shade of beige tone of skin, I easily and eagerly and willingly would have helped him. But he had a shade of brown tone of skin, so I freaked out and ran away. Now on some level, on some inner level, he knew he was wrong. Okay? He didn't separate the seeds of his real feeling and his brainwashed feeling from the culture. So he felt shades of guilt now. That name of the episode, he felt this kind of guilt like this. So they wanted to teach this guy some empathy here. Like, so Matt, on the surface, Matt maintained Matt, but his body morphed into the professor. Now he's the professor, but he's Matt on the inside, but everything on the outside, he looks like the professor guy. So he got to live as the professor. So he spent some time walking in another man's shoes. Much more than that, he spent some time walking in another man's body or skin or whatever. So he spent some time as the professor. Lesson in empathy, courtesy of the Twilight Zone. So you can imagine the experiences he had, right? Even his wife, his job. So you see the typical things that somebody with a shade of beige, the problems they might have because they have a shade of brown, sorry. But inside, he's a shade of beige. He's Matt inside, experiencing what somebody with a shade of brown tone of skin goes through on a regular, systemic, daily basis. Even his his wife rejected him. His staff mates rejected him because he had a shade of brown. So, and there's a little more to it, but that's sort of the gist of it. So he spent some time like that. Okay, then the thing looped around. The thing looped around. Like a replay kind of thing. Now, Matt, in the body of the professor with the brown skin, sees Matt outside being attacked. Is he gonna? And then more. Then they flip. They morphed it back to it. So at that point they flip flop. So now he's back. He's got a redo kind of thing. Now he sees the professors. Please help me. These violent. I don't know what they are. These violent monsters. I don't know. These diseased in the brain. These rabid diseased sickos. They go around looking. They murder. These are the people that maybe murder the indigenous women and missing. Maybe some kind of cult, some kind of violent, extreme cult like that. I don't know what it is. It's hard to talk about like that, right? Anyways, so he got like a second chance kind of thing with the experience of having lived like him. So then he helped him. He helped him. He hesitated, but then he helped him. And the professor got in the car, who's safe and protected from the psychopathic KKK death cult or whatever it was, death squad, KKK death squad, I guess they were called. I don't know what they were called. They didn't give a name for them. It's a disturbing episode. It's one of the most. There are 3 very, very emotional, disturbing episodes. That's maybe number 1 or number 2. I don't know. The Doberman Pinscher one, and there's a third one that's also troublesome. Wait, so the professor asked Matt, you were just about to take off, but you backed up and saved me. You saved my life. What made you change your mind? Well, I realized that could have been me. You could have been me. He was him. He was him. Like he was the professor. That could have been me. A lesson in compassion, courtesy of the Twilight Zone. But I think the real issue, I think it's a good example of the seeds. His real feelings, he knew he was wrong. He was bothered by it. And everyone around him told him, forget it, he's got a shade of brown to us, who cares? Like everyone around him, even his wife, his girlfriends, even though the context was such that maybe a lot of people would have done what he did kind of thing. But if you go to your deep feelings, and someone's you see something like that, your instinct is to do something human, right? So he didn't act in a human way. Because he's been brainwashed all of his life. Okay. That in the pillage system, that if someone looks different, well, that means that's the other. The other reminds you of the mother. Okay. You put a dash or a hyphen between the M and the O and the word mother. So when you see an other, someone's different, like other, not you, other, that's the mother. You hate the mother, transfer, you hate the other. Or another version of it is, if it's the other, and they're like, you might think they're different. Wait a minute. Do you mean they got love to be themselves? They differentiate? I didn't get that. I have envy. I can't see that. Mother robbed me of the chance to be different and to have for me to be an other from her, to be distinct from her, to have it differentiated from her. Mother robbed that in me. I became her. If someone got that experience, I got to rob it in them. So there's an immense hatred like that. And this maybe goes back to long ago when when the child rearing methods, when babies were more traumatized in the colder places. Now, in the colder places, people lost the melanin. It's not the melanin didn't cause that. I don't buy this theory that the less hue you have in your skin, the less human you are. The less color, hue, H-U-E, hue, human. Okay, I don't buy that theory. I think the guy who said it was just angry because he was telling a story of the violence inflicted on his family and all that. So he wanted to just, he was angry like that. So he wanted to put down those of the shade of beige tone of skin by saying, well, they're not human, they're less human because they have less hue, H-U-E. Like to be human, you need hue, H-U. H-U sounds like hue, H-U-E. He was kind of going on a rant like that. But when you hear the context of where he's coming from, you can understand that. Okay, so anyways, when we spread around and settle in different places, some people experience less sun, less melanin, shade of beige, less melanin, less heat. But that doesn't cause the trauma. The way babies were raised did it. There was more pain in those areas. So the most traumatized of the most traumatized of the most traumatized, let's say, okay, they're going to feel the most entitled, the most aggression, the most envy, the most greed, the most entitlement, and the most anger, and the most entitlement to repeat onto others what was done to them. So what was done to them? When the baby's traumatized, the mother plundered his home, his embodiment. It's a home. Inside, it's like your home, like your sense of, oh, the battery. Oh, it's okay, it's good. Well, it's okay. Okay, we got about so we got a good half an hour left here. Okay. We're almost, oh, maybe an hour. Yeah. I'll close this before an hour. See, I can transfer the storage to the memory, but it doesn't automatically go to the memory chip. It goes internal, and then I gotta close it and then transfer, and then I get another 2 hours like that. So something's happened to my phone. I can't automatically make a video beyond 2.5 hours for it because it doesn't click into it. It's formatted. I did everything I could. Something happened. Jeez, man. Somebody told you better just buy another phone. You're not gonna fix all this stuff. Okay, so when the baby believes that his mother or some image he creates in relation to the mother, okay, was a robber baron, was a short seller, gave emotional poverty, okay, took away his home, robbed his home, his embodiment, his sense of self. It's like an inner home, like that, like a home. Okay, so you got to think about the inner. Okay, identification with the aggressor, Faustian deal, repetition compulsion. Okay, if there's land out there, if it's other people's home, then symbolic, acting out. Okay, to have a mother, they gotta rob people's homes as a reflection of the inner state of their inner home being robbed. So the outer is a reflection of the inner state. If the inner state is that mother robbed their embodiment, we all live in a psychic house called a soul castle. That's your inner home, Ithaca, your beingness, your home within. So mother robbed that, so you feel empty. Okay, you become the robber. So okay, you want to repeat it. Oh, they've got a home. To have a mother, I gotta rob the land. Okay, that's me being loyal to the mother, whitewashing her crime, hoping to win her love. Okay, so the outer behavior is a reflection of the inner state, as above, so below. Well, mother gave me poverty, and I had to hand over my treasure and gold to her. Oh my God, I had to hand my resources and my treasures and my goodness to her. And she gave me poverty like that. Identify with the aggressor, give others poverty as a reflection of their inner emotional poverty. So the outer poverty is a reflection. So 80% are in poverty as a reflection of the top 20% most traumatized, most emotionally impoverished. As above, so below. The 80% have to hand over the stuff. Well, they as a baby had to quote unquote hand over to the mother. Mother got a little pleasure by it, a little comfort by it. So when you plunder a place, you feel a little pleasure by it. That's called Schadenfreude. Mother was Schadenfreudig, you become Schadenfreudig. Is that a word, Schadenfreudig? Oh, there's a new, first time I heard that. Schadenfreudig. What we need what the world needs is Freudenfreude, pleasure at other people's happiness. Mother doesn't have pleasure in the baby's happiness. No, she's envious. That's the wicked witch. The mother is very, very enraged at the idea that the child's going to be autonomous because she needs supply. She needs the breast. She needs the ersatz self-object. She needs someone to mirror her, comfort her, make her the center, respond to her, attend to her, make her always feel that she's the center and it's all about her. So she needs one person to do that. So one of the children will be drawn in for that. Okay, now maybe in the places where there was more traditional places with the sun, so people maintain the melanin, but it's not the melanin that made them less traumatized. Okay? They maintain maybe the more traditional way of how babies are delivered and nursed and all that. So in traditional birthing, the woman squats or something, or she tilts the tailbone or something, allows a little gravity and cooperates and listens with the rhythm of the baby, pelvic space, gravity, listening to the signals of the baby, cooperates with the contraction, holds the baby up, scoops him up, leaves the cord, leaves the placenta, places the baby in the, it's all natural stuff, natural birth, lotus birth, gentle birth, natural birth, no birth trauma, no shocking procedures, so if that's going to happen, that's the more traditional, normal way, right? So now when people move to the colder places, that part I don't know about, why people in colder places started to traumatize their babies more. Maybe it was an intuition that if you create traumatized babies, then they'll be the flying monkeys that go plunder. So the 20% need flying monkeys, so a bunch of babies are traumatized to plunder and pillage. Mothers, they feel entitled, they don't care like that. Okay, we have a few other theories on prejudice, systemic prejudice and all that. But just culturally, you see, anything you watch on TV, they'll give you disturbing images of people with a shade of brown tone of skin, the violence inflicted on them. They show you a negative light. They just bombarded you endlessly, just non-stop bombardment of brainwashing you to thinking that. Even children's cartoons to it. The curriculum in the school is designed for it. They got people that watch that. So you're meant to, by the time you graduate, you're meant to be prejudiced already. If you're not already prejudiced by the birth trauma, or relational trauma, or attachment trauma, or any other kind of trauma, you'll get it by the brainwashing conditioning over 20 years, kind of thing. Endless examples. That music documentary, Rumble did it. There's a music documentary about indigenous people's contribution to music. Oh boy, they really trashed them. They really made them look really bad. But the topic was their contribution. But the effect of it is, oh my God, you feel this push to. They want to trigger you. They want to trigger your shamed, unloved, disgusted self on like that. They want you to associate and externalize and blame and not see that you feel poverty and poor, rude or no good, whatever. They want you to project that onto those with the shade of brown tone of skin, indigenous people and all that. And they're still doing, oh, funny, yesterday I saw a clip that they're gonna rob the indigenous people of the few little crumbs that they're still holding on to. They're gonna take it away. Unbelievable. So we got to make the inference. If somebody's negative towards others, that's to know and make the inference that the mother was negative towards them. Kind of simple like that, right? So then you got to confront your mother, confront your script, confront your mother. Well, confront the mother means try to get the story. Try to get the story. Okay, battery's holding up. 648. Should we take a peek at maybe some quotes coming up? Let me just randomly see what's coming up here. Let me just randomly, if I can hold it here. Okay, related to the brain one. What's the brain got to do with it? Repeated overstimulation of the brain's reward circuit numbs the response in the brain's pleasure center. Repeated overstimulation also strengthens associations, which increases cravings, and it weakens inhibition from the prefrontal cortex, which undermines self-control. Dopamine for the chase, serotonin from the catch. But the catch numbs you, so more dopamine, more things. Okay, forget that one for now. That's enough. This biology part, that's really out of my zone. But I feel like I have to try my best somehow. Oh, here's a key one. Okay, the breakup. So birth is compensated. So the break, they call it the caesura. The caesura, the C-A-E sura, the caesura of birth, like the break of birth kind of thing, is compensated by the psychological extra-uterine symbiosis and bodily intimacy returns in breastfeeding. So the oneness, the mother, the two bodies being like that, and you're in paradise, well, it's got to continue. So the symbiotic, the psychological minds being one or something, mother can pick up the signals, like the mind reading like that. And the breastfeeding creates the bodily intimacy that he had. So babies need an extended paradise from the internal womb to the external womb. They need like an extended womb, an extended social, interpersonal womb, skin to skin, natural feeding, mother's loving gaze, rhythm of safety. He can get the paradise to continue. Okay, one about, okay, the intensity. So, okay, this guy couldn't do intimacy, so he looked for intensity to distract him of his inability to have intimacy. Okay, this client was always ready for the intensity by provoking an argument. So the shrink said, if anything was unclear, boop, he's created a fight, because he couldn't make an I statement, he couldn't tell it. Okay, on the lighter side, from Anne Schaefer coming up, she quoted somebody who said, quote, "If I were wiser, I wouldn't be where I am now. But of course, if I weren't where I am now, how could I get any wiser?" Here's a good one. Here's an important one. Recovery rests on calling a spade a spade. That's a key one. You got to call a spade a spade. You're not going to heal if you idealize your mother or demonize your mother. Get her story, then you know the truth that she didn't love you. That's not demonizing it. You're telling the truth, calling a spade, but you got to get the story first. If you don't get the story and you're doing splitting, oh, addicts. Addicts are experts at repeating something that doesn't work. Our addictions turn us into sleepwalkers, going through life with a sleep mask on. Oh, narcissist and narcotic. Okay, the etymological relationship between narcissist and neurotic. Okay, the name of the flower, narcissus, that's the name of the flower, narcissus, is thought to be derived from the Greek word narkao, or narkao, meaning to grow stiff or numb because of the narcotic or sulfuric properties of the flower. That's the psychology. The flower does that to people, so the psychology does that to people. The term narcissus comes from a Greek word, narke, meaning stupor, lethargy, and is found in such English words as narcotic, narcolepsy. The most startling implication of the narcissist myth is that to a person, okay, well, let's save that for another key one, 20 coming up, 29, 28. So I'm just doing a preview of some upcoming quotes here. Every cord cutting has been perceived for thousands of years as a way to separate the baby from their mother, rather than from the placenta. You got to think in those terms. When the cords are moved, the baby doesn't lose the cord and the placenta. He loses his mother. He just came up, he had a traumatic birth maybe, a lot of complications at the birth, and poof, you take away his mother, put him on a scale, hormones go away, wrapped in a towel. It's gone, mother's gone. And mother can't reestablish the connection. That's called birth trauma. That's part of the plunder system. So in the pillage and plunder system, you'll see it, that's what happens. The baby's pulled up, they take away the cord, put them on a scale, wait a while to make sure the trauma sets in, the birth trauma kicks in, wait for the pin to go and make them numb, so they want to make them numb, and he creates the fantasies of a monster, and he makes the Faustian deal, now he goes and plunder. In the name of pillage and plunder, we traumatize this baby, basically. So in natural birth, no, for thousands of years, for most of them, the normal thing is you leave the cord, you leave the placenta. It's called the lotus birth. Somebody said the only time it might be okay to remove the cord is only after the blood cycling has completed its cycling process. Okay, so normally the cord is bluish or reddish or purplish because the blood is flowing around, oxygen is flowing around. The placenta is the baby's guardian animal, the spiritual guardian, flowing into the mother. It's a connection like that. So only after a couple of days, when the cord turns white and the cord flattens out like a pancake, and the child has established the symbiotic blissful oneness with the mother, and he's got the bliss with the mother, okay, and the cord turns white, then maybe okay, it's fine. But just to be safe, just let it drop off on its own accord. So if people got the normal birth, they'll be ethical and moral with feelings. 70 million indigenous people on Turtle Island, they were nice to the people who came, but the people who came were traumatized. Now, back to the episode Cradle of Darkness. Let's say someone could go back in time and stop Mr. Columbus. Doesn't matter. The backer, the financer, would pull in another one. So it's not about that. The people behind it need to analyze themselves. Why are they using proxies to do what they don't want to do, what they're afraid to do. In other words, why are they them, basically? Just using a proxy. Well, they're enraged, they're greedy, they're envious, they want to get supply and don't see the people as people, but they want the supply, they want the resource. So the people behind the scenes need to interpret themselves that mother robbed them, that their mother was a short seller, that the cord was removed on them. And they were put on a scale and removed from the mother, wrapped in a towel, hormones dissipate, broken the bond, attachment trauma. With attachment trauma, you got a monster image, an envious image. Identify with that, that's your link to the mother, attachment theory. So you're envious of others, you want to rob, that's called Grendy. You don't do it yourself, so you find flying monkeys to do it for you. Because the planners have to kind of plan it. So you find externalized, overt versions of you, like the sympathetic versions of you or something. In other words, look, yeah, that's a big topic. Look on the Enneagram, the 5 and 8. Read the unhealthy 5 and the line to the unhealthy 8. That's a good starting point. The Enneagram 5-8 line. That's a key point from the Enneagram. Albert Hubbard, the obnoxious person. In the show Harry's Law, her name is Harriet, but they nickname her Harry. She lost her job and all this. In the pilot, you can hear the line is, "Some obnoxious person said every knock is a boost." Apparently that's Albert Hubbard. He's very good with quotes on religion. Anyways, he's an optimist, Mr. Hubbard. He says there's this innate drive for healing. The next move of evolution is healing. This hate, that's not natural. Hate's not the primary thing. Hate's not the basic primary thing. When the feelings and the golden ball is lost and you go back to the survival brain, that's that. That's not supposed to be there normally. That's just a response to trauma. The basic thing is the golden ball, the beingness. That's the basic temperament. That's the normal temperament. So what we're doing now is like we're in the traumatic state. So as a person tries to heal, that the outer world will heal, kind of thing. Man in the mirror kind of thing. So this plundering is no more any kind of law of nature than is hate. Hate is... See, Karen Horney is very good. If you want to really want to face this issue of what hate is, you got to read Karen. I would recommend Karen Horney. Our Inner Conflicts, her essays, Neurosis and Human Growth, that might be in there, I forgot. So in other words, when we heal, when individuals heal, the outer reflection of it will be some kind of cooperative lifestyle outside. We'll be behaving in a cooperative way, because we don't see people as our mothers whom we're angry at. We don't see others as us, and we're the mother. And we got to replace. We heal all that stuff. Then you can do mutuality like that. A cooperative commonwealth, it calls it. So he's referring to the innate drive for healing. He's referring to that in nature, when something's wounded, it's built in nature that it's trying to heal. If there's a wound on a tree, there might be some sap that's trying to heal. Something's built in that's trying to heal. Well, we're wounded. We're homotraumicus. We're trying to heal. He just means it like that. What's this, John Steiner? What's this? The process of withdrawing projections is connected with the development of the capacity to symbolism. Oh my goodness. Deprived parents may try to extract parenting from their children, thus depriving them and hence maintaining the cycle of deprivation. That's the curse right there. The mother's cursed. The mother herself is cursed if she does this. In the fairy tale, she's a monster or whatever. She's an animal. We're not calling the mother an animal. It's a picture that she can't be the more human. She can't do the more normal human thing. So she's doing the more survival jungle thing. So they see she's an animal. She's cursed. And the child's going to be cursed. Mother, don't curse me. Please don't curse me, mother. Okay, synonyms for the stepmother. In fairy tales, there might be the devouring mother, the cursing mother. There might be the dead. Okay, I don't know about that one. The persecutory mother, the castrating. When they say castrating, they mean taking away the baby's agency. Don't be confused by pop culture's perverted translation. The baby's effectiveness and agency in doing, he can't do it, so they say she's the castrating mother. Not biology stuff. It's a metaphor for the child lost his ability, so he can't assert himself. So they mean it like that. I think psychology made a big mistake when they try to make that metaphor. Or maybe it's a translation issue, I don't know. The mother whose look is opaque and consuming, the consuming mother, the torturing mother. Okay, and it goes on, all right. The stepmother who so frequently appears in fairy tales seems to be the child's fantasy of the bad, cruel, jealous, envious mother. So the stepmother, that's when the child sees that the mother's envious and bitter. So she's the stepmother. Fairy stories of the wicked step-parent permit the child to identify with the plight of the youngster in the story and give the child the satisfaction of seeing the step-parent destroyed without directly mobilizing aggression at its own now degraded real parent. Okay, some people have the theory, I have a question mark, some people have the theory that they are enraged at the mother. So in the story, the stepmother is destroyed. Oh, he feels satisfied. That's a displacement. I don't know. It's a convincing argument, but something's wrong with it. I don't know. Recovery isn't changing who you are, it is letting go of who you are not. Saturday, the false self disappears. What else? Transference. Transference represents the phenomenon of the client's projection of his or her feelings, thoughts, and wishes onto the therapist who has come to represent an object in the client's own past. So you're trying to recreate the past. So you see the person of the person as the person of the past. So you transfer the person of the past to the person of the present. That's called transfer. Due to the repetition compulsion, we transfer. The compulsion to repeat makes us, that compulsion causes us to transfer and see the present as the past. So we transfer the past to the present still the past. Like that. So you just believe somebody in the present is either you or the mother, and you replay the thing. Either you play yourself and find someone who rejects you, that's the more benign one, believe it or not, or you find someone who plays you and you're the rejecting mother, that's the more perverse one, disturbed one. Stinger and a clinger. Oh, the one about the seeds, yeah. Okay, so that quote about the seeds is coming up. About discernment. Looking for detailed feeling judgments. Oh, the one about the curse is coming up. Well, this quote by Bannett is good. Okay, the Bannett one. Traumatic events, by definition, overwhelm our ability to cope. When the mind becomes flooded with emotion, a circuit breaker is thrown that allows us to survive the experience fairly intact, i.e., without becoming psychotic or frying out one of the brain centers, like the rat in the documentary, The Deranged Brain. The cost of this blown circuit is emotion frozen within the body. In other words, we often unconsciously stop feeling our trauma part way through it, like a movie that's still going on, that's still going on after the sound has been turned off. So the body shuts down, circuit breaker. It shuts down. Body's being traumatized, circuit breaker, pin in the pin in the collar, circuit breaker. So it shuts down. So the metaphor is you're watching a film, you're seeing the thing, but the audio's off. But you're seeing the thing, but no audio. Well, the body's, the audio shuts down, but you still function. But the feelings, the audio. Okay, so we'll get there. Well, these are some good questions. Hang on. Okay, part of the self-reflection is, are you aware of any way in which you may have locked trauma in your body? What emotions, pain or suffering might be stuck in there? Fear, you wanted to run, maybe. What effect has that had on you? Okay. Avoiding things, maybe. Do you see any connection between these feelings and your addictive behavior? Looking for comfort, running to mother for food, soothing. Okay, and so on. All right. The motif of redemption. Okay, another one from Von Franz is, so when you go in the unconscious and you come up, there's a kind of like a, that's a motif, right? You go in the unconscious, that's the water, and you come up from the water, right? Now you're conscious. A common pattern in this of fairy tales. So in a fairy tale, somebody jumps in the water and it comes up. That's all it means. Bly has the thing about the arc. So you want to maintain conscious adult ego and don't want to be submerged in the flooded, like submerged in the water. If you don't have the adult ego, you're always unconscious. Frozen parent, freezing parent, frozen child, that's the past, that's unconscious. The adult mind is the arc that keeps you in the present. You want to build the arc. You want to build this adult mind that keeps you in the present. If you don't have it, you're flooded, but you want to build the arc to stay above, like to stay in reality in the present. Same way. Again, myths and fairy tales are symbols of psychological trauma. Oh, here's the one about shades of guilt. The closing narration. The old saying goes, you don't know a man until you walked a mile in his shoes. Matt went one better. He got to walk in another man's skin. A simple lesson in compassion, courtesy of the Twilight Zone. You know, the narrator, the Forrest Whitaker, the narrator guy, he was very emotional about this episode. I've never seen him so emotional, and you know, it was personal for him too, right? Because the narrator has a shade of brown tone of skin, right? So he was very emotional about that episode. Okay, so we got one about the gambler coming up. The guy was given a choice between a regular girl or Lady Luck or Fate. I want Lady Luck or Fate. That's the mother, missing mother. Okay, let's just quickly here. Okay, so the gambler, under the sway of the repetition compulsion, endlessly reenacts situations of refusal and masochistic misery by provoking, quote, Fate or Lady Luck, who are thinly disguised mother figures. This is well illustrated in the film Owning Mahoney. So I never heard of this film, but apparently there's some film out there called Owning Mahoney's the guy's name, right? Based on a true story recounted in the book by Ross, 2002, in which some banker guy embezzled millions of dollars to gamble at casinos. In a poignant scene, he rejects the offer of a pretty girl. That was the casino's strategy to as part of their covert strategy to keep gamblers who are winning at the table, saying that the only woman he wants is Lady Luck. Oh, I guess at one point he was winning and they wanted to take him away. Is that right? Okay, I'll clarify that later. Okay, winning. Winning means being reunited with the nurturing mother. Losing means being rejected by her. So he was rejected by the mother. He was allured and rejected. Allured and rejected. So you go to the slot machine, you're allured, it's a lot of promise, and you're rejected. So you say, oh, the casino's Lady Luck, it's Fate, Lady Luck. That's code for the mother. You're rejected. You're repeating it. You have to someday hope that when you put your hope and your faith in the slot machine, that your mother in the nursery, back in the nursery, a time machine will appear, you'll go back in the nursery and you get mother's love. You have that kind of hope. Okay, that part of the brain doesn't know time. The present, you don't see the present realistically, only materially, but you don't see it emotionally. You see it emotionally as the past. So you're still in the past, hoping that the mother, the slot machine, so it's like a kind of like a flip thing, like the slot machine is the breast in the past. You put your hope in the slot machine, but you're hoping that the breast will feed you. Doesn't work, misery, but it's your hope. You have to hope. You don't want to admit that your mother didn't love you. You want to keep the hope. So you keep putting money in the slot machine, thinking that if you win, that your mother responded, but normally you lose, mother rejected you, and that's your experience. You want to know that your mother rejected you, so you recreate it to know the story of the past. So go to the slot machine, get rejected, say, ouch, oh, I see, mother rejected me. I don't remember that, but now I know it. You recreate to get memory to stop repeating. Let's see, anything else here? Any other, do we have any other Twilight Zone ones? A central goal of psychoanalysis. Well, to stop this repetition compulsion, to intervene upon the repetition compulsion by which the person hopelessly attempts to ascertain themselves against the result. So some people say, they frame it by saying you want to master the trauma. You can have 20 lifetimes going to the slot machine, It doesn't change. It doesn't work. Nothing's mastered. You just make yourself numb or something. I don't know. That's not an authentic master. Okay. Let me. What is this person's philosophy of life? Where is this person vulnerable? Why are the wounds still tender? Okay, moving towards empathy, ask yourself questions like that. Our greatest pretenses are built up to hide our emptiness. The hardest thing to hide is something that's not there. Jesus. No child who was ever adequately loved or properly loved, ADD, ever became a delinquent. The client, she is a gifted manipulator, a malign, the BPD woman, a woman with the BPD pattern. So we have a thread on the BPD personality pattern. We did a lot of good material by that, on that topic. In the mind, the hall of mirrors and the house of mirrors. Mirrors, catch me if you can. Now you see me, now you don't. Survival anxiety. So they can lie and flim-flam and deceive. The BPD one. Intense short-term relationships, can't regulate feelings, acting out. The BPD one. So she is a gifted manipulator, a malign master of hiding her self-serving flim-flammery. She's a master of hiding her self-serving flim-flammery. That's a new one for me. Her flim-flammery behind the distracting rhetoric of a snake oil salesman. So this woman's a master liar. She's the femme fatale type, or the playgirl type, or whatever. Let me just do a couple of easy ones. Let's see. Oh, the chrysalis, okay. A common metaphor for healing is the caterpillar, cocoon, butterfly, right? It's not that you go into the chrysalis or the cocoon in order to become a better caterpillar. So a lot of people do that. They're a caterpillar. They go into the cocoon thinking, how can I be a better caterpillar? No, at midlife, you're going to be like a whole new person kind of thing. You're going to have your feelings back and you can fly, right? What about the Dawn Ohanas coming up? They may not realize that when caterpillars go into cocoons, they do not emerge as high-class caterpillars. And they may not be prepared for the agony of the transformation that goes on inside the chrysalis, nor are they quite prepared for the winged beauty that slowly and painfully emerges, that lives by a very different set of laws than a caterpillar. Even more confounding is the fact that friends and family who may be quite happy caterpillars have no patience with the silent, hard-edged chrysalis that is all turned in on itself. Oh, look at this person in midlife, just thinks about themselves, so indulgent like that. And they have even less patience with the confused butterfly who hasn't adjusted to the laws of aerodynamics. So if you're a clinger and you're healing, don't go to the stinger, they'll just crush you. So that's a common problem. Pleasers and caretakers are trying to heal. They go to the stinger who just loves to crush them. So when people are clingers and healers, they do try to heal. So they're kind of on their own like that. So clingers have to find other clingers, and consciously they can grow together to be two butterflies together, right? Butterfly lovers. So. Oh, it's different. No, it's different. Yeah, what's that about? Let's look at that. And beautiful music. Oh my God, very beautiful violin music called Butterfly Lovers. I'm guessing maybe it's about the oneness, the floating feeling, maybe the blissful oneness of a. Doctor, shrinker man, at the end of this treatment, will you give me a written description of my personality? To which he replied, Madam, if at the end of the treatment you still wish to have a written description of your personality, then the treatment will have been a failure. Oh, man can transcend his neurotic society if he transcends the neurosis in himself. That's not a bad one-liner, right? Janov, it's in one of Janov's books. No, Janov didn't write it, but someone who endorsed Janov, some guy named Milton Klein here. Man can transcend his neurotic society if he transcends the neurosis in himself. Let's try dysfunction. Man can transcend his dysfunctional society if he transcends the dysfunction in himself. Hey, Michael Jackson, Man in the Mirror. That's a good one, yeah. So I want to close this before it hits 2 hours and 20 minutes. Make sure I keep it. Oh, Twilight Zone. What's this one? She spent her entire life too afraid to live and lost all hope of having it. Okay. Oh, that's another tough one. They borrowed the idea that in a car accident, sometimes the person doesn't want to let go, so they don't accept. They want to stay like a ghost, basically like a ghost kind of. The consciousness is sort of floating betwixt and between or something like that. They just took that idea as a metaphor, how a person with trauma is a bit like that. They don't accept the trauma, they don't move on with their life. And in her case, so that was a consciousness that you can't go back. No, hang on. The message was either A, face your trauma, then you can move forward. So they had a bus there. She didn't want to get on the bus all the time. For the ghost one, but it meant for the personhood, move forward by admitting something. Admit that you had trauma. That's getting on the bus. Some kind of movement or something. Maybe like that. That one wasn't. Oh, an indigenous. We have a couple of indigenous elders here. A guy named Yellow Horse, a Navajo indigenous elder. Knowledge is like the wind. Once embracing it, you can go anywhere. Navajo elder, Mr. Yellow Horse, or Chief Yellow Horse. Knowledge is like the wind. Once embracing it, you can go anywhere. Oh, Eric Byrne. We got a quote from Eric Byrne coming up. A neurosis interferes with normal living and impairs the individual's happiness and ability to get along or love other people. Misguided attempts and persistent attempts to satisfy your script, let's say. Okay, it's a waste of energy. It results from unfinished business of childhood. You're expressing wishes in disguised form over and over again. Displacement, projection, scapegoating. Neurotic energy uses energy inappropriately and wastefully to satisfy old, disguised, unmet infantile wishes by means of old patterns of behavior directed toward substitutes for the real object. Yeah. That's a lot of energy, right? Use all of your energy to chase your favorite bottle of wine, thinking you're a baby trying to get mother's love. Oh, here's the one about, oh my God, yeah. Okay, let's save it for next time. 2936 coming up. Oh, I like this one by Lao Tzu. The way is the goal. So what's the way? Well, coming from your beingness. If you have your beingness, then your doing is ethical. Okay. So the phrase maiden king. Maiden means the feminine principle, meaning the beingness. If you have your beingness, then you're doing the masculine. That's maiden king. Okay. So that's the way, that's the goal. Your goal is to come from the way is the goal. And if you have the way, that's your goal, it's the way. The way coming means you're living from your beingness, then your doing is ethical and moral and ethical and natural, and you can have your personhood, you can love, you can cry, you can make amends and live in the present kind of thing. So that way is the goal, right? The way is the goal. I think that's what it means. Analysis, it has been said, is the study of the id by the odd. It means all of the unconscious energy in the repressed that's tied up in that old script. All of your energy in that old script is the id. So the guy running to buy the beer, that's id energy. That's the id. Is that it? Oh, that's it. Okay, that's it. Okay, so that's a preview of some of the quotes coming up. Let's see. 2:15. Okay, good timing. Okay, good. So I'll make sure I capture this. So let's think of a song to close up this video with. Let's see. So we've been talking about Ulman and Paul. Triggering up the feelings that you're a little god like that. Do we have any songs about fantasy? Earth, Wind, and Fire has a song called Fantasy. Oh, we don't have that. Let's close up with Nature's Way, a song originally written by the band Spirit. So the band Spirit has two hits, I Got a Line on You and Nature's Way, basically. Now, a guy named Christopher Cross does a very good cover of Nature's Way in his album called Windows. Now, Kenny Shields of Street Harp, just before he passed away, the last song he recorded it was a cover of Nature's Way, Kenny Shields. So let's close up with Street Heart's cover of Nature's Way. There are only two covers that are worth listening to, I think. Christopher Cross, that's the better one, I think. And Street Heart, he was a little older when he did it, but it's still okay. But in honor of Kenny Shields, Street Heart, a major musical voice in our soundtrack is Street Heart, Kenny Shields of Street Heart. Let's close up with Nature's Way. And if the song piques your interest, then go over to Christopher Cross, and then of course the original. So there's three versions. The original, there's a live one on stage. There's a studio and the live by Spirit. Christopher Cross from his Windows album, and Street Heart's cover on their Legacy, a CD called Legacy or something like that. It's nature's way of telling you. So if you feel pain, that's nature's way of telling you that there's an unresolved trauma that you didn't mourn. It's nature's way of telling you you didn't mourn. You didn't find the truth. In recovery, you gotta find the truth. Calling a spade a spade. If you're lying and you're protecting and you're whitewashing, you got this unreal hope you don't heal. So 17, okay. Battery's holding up. Battery's holding up, yeah. Well, let's leave it up to each person. Try those three versions, the original, Christopher Cross, and Street Heart, and pick one. For each person chooses one, and that'll be the closing song for this video. Thanks very much. For the love of narrative medicine, I'll see you in the next video. For the love of narrative medicine, Nature's Way. See you next time.